Today we back to back the YZ250 two-stroke and the KTM 250 two-stroke. We ended up going somewhere a little bit different. It was basically a tight, gnarly, bumpy turn track. Purpose for that was, I feel that I've ridden the bikes enough over the years to know, how the power feels and about the advantages that the KTM has over the Yamaha and vice versa, the advantages the Yamaha has over the KTM. So for me personally, it's very hard not to enjoy either bike. So, I've got to stress that straight away. But we all know that Yamaha they've stopped development on their bike for a long period of time now, and KTM have been progressing on. And, is that noticeable? Do you see that? Do you feel that as a rider? These are all the questions that I'd like to know, and probably that you'd like to know yourselves. So first off, the suspension. Yamaha, to me, they always come out with the suspension which is right in the ballpark for everybody. I don't know how they managed to do it. They managed to get just this nice plush feeling up at the top end, and it pretty much suits most abilities, to be honest. Yamaha, their spring forks, they've always stuck with the spring forks. They've never ventured off into the air forks world. Obviously, the KTM comes with WP air forks. WP have been making a big push over the last few years and still continue to have a big push in the marketplace at the moment. For me, they probably produce one of the best air forks. It's easy to set up. It has a good feeling to it. It's one of the ones which is probably closest to the spring feeling forks. I personally don't have any issues with the air forks. If I was an average intermediate rider, I'd say I'd be pushed towards the KYB. Definitely, just because it has that comfortable feel to it. If I'm pushing the bike on, and if I'm pushing on a little bit more and I'm asking a little bit more from the suspension, then I'd probably edge towards WP. Then you could feel that, out there. It allows you just to push a little bit harder into a few of the bumps and also hold up through the turn. One of the things that I really like about the Yamaha 250 is the chassis. They haven't been pushing this development train for quite a number of years now, yet the bike still delivers. For me, the chassis now is probably a little bit more rigid, especially over the KTM, with the way that the frame is on the KTM, or the chassis, should we say. The KTM just offers that little bit more flex, and you can really feel that, and it allows you just to have the bike a little bit more planted. You feel like you're just tracking a little bit more. That's probably why the suspension's so good on the Yamaha, just to cater for that frame. The chassis on the Yam is good, don't get me wrong, it is really good. But I can't think of what generation frame we're on now with KTM, but I know that they introduced a new frame in 2019, and everyone can't say enough good things about the frame and how the bike's handled. Also as well, you've got the cable clutch on the Yam, you've got the hydraulic clutch on the KTM, which obviously the KTM comes a little bit more, it's a little bit more pricey. The KTM engine, they've got that counterbalance shaft. You stop the vibration. You do feel that with the power out on track. You can hold third gear and the motor does pull it, but then so does the Yamaha. The Yamaha, to me, the connection is always good on the Yamaha bike, and it is on the 250 two-stroke. The connection, I would say, is better than the KTM, definitely, but it does run out a little bit of steam over the KTM. The KTM does seem to have that little bit more tractability, let's say. Maybe, and when I say tractability, it lags out the turns a little bit more, where the Yam seems a little bit more responsive, but then the KTM does pick up and then really does stretch out. Which bike would I buy? I know it sounds like I'm sitting on the fence here, but I'd quite happily have either bike, and so it would just be down to budget, what I could afford. There is advantages to having the KTM, as I've mentioned. You've got the air forks and the new chassis. That all feels great. The bike does have a little bit more power, so if you're looking at the KTM or you're looking at a budget and you're probably thinking, I don't really want to buy a Yamaha and have to invest to make it go a little bit faster. I'm not saying that you have to, because I run a stock 250 two-stroke for a number of years and actually really love the bike. But the way that the tracks are today, they're always getting rotivated and cut up, and and quite loamy and heavy, so you know it does sap power, and you do need power. The KTM did impress me, you know, because the bike is improving, the two-stroke is improving. You know, fair play to them that they're carrying on with the development train and pushing the bike, and it's great to see and it's great to ride. Regarding with the YZ250, it's kind of like a different credit to them really, because they've stopped with a bike which actually still feels really good. So it just goes to show maybe how far ahead of the game they were when they were producing these bikes, or even should they have stopped developing these bikes and should have carried on. So yeah, I'd recommend that they try the bikes, and if they know how they ride and what their style's like, then they've got two different options definitely there, which are good options, and definitely not putting you at a massive disadvantage, especially at club level. I'm talking, you know, there's not night and day difference that is going to be affecting your results, that's for certain.